Kayo ay nakatutok sa DWDD AFP Radio. Kami po ay kasapi ng KBP, Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Ito ang DWDD 1134 kHz AM. Balita, impormasyon at musika. Ito ang DWDD AFP Radio. Boses ng Kawal Pilipino.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to The Voice of the Teachers, the only radio program for teachers, by teachers, and with teachers here on AFP Radio DWDD. I am Bobby Ancheta, and this is my segment, Learning with Impact. Before we begin, I want to express our deepest gratitude to the leadership of AFP Radio DWDD for providing us teachers with Before we begin, I want to express our deepest gratitude to the leadership of AFP Radio DWDD for providing us teachers with this invaluable platform to discuss the issues and concerns relevant to our noble profession. Our sincerest thanks to General Romeo Bronner Jr., Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Lieutenant General Arvin R. Lagamon, Commander of the Philippine Army Civil Military Operations Command, Colonel Franzel Margaret A. Padilla, AFP Radio DWDD Station Manager and MCAG Group Commander, and Corporal Regine Tamanio, our Program NCO. Your support empowers teachers' voices to be heard across the nation and around the world. Today's segment focuses on reflecting on challenges and strategic leadership practices. But here's what makes this episode a little different. Instead of interviewing a guest, this will be a personal reflection, my own journey as a school administrator and the lesson I've learned along the way. Leadership isn't just about big discussions or the formal titles we hold. It is about the daily challenges we face, the mistakes we make, the people we serve, and the growth that comes from honest reflection. Today, I want to share my story, the struggles, the breakthroughs, the moments of doubt, and the lessons that have shaped how I lead. Whether you're a school administrator, an aspiring leader, or a classroom teacher exercising leadership in your own space, I hope my reflection will resonate with you. Perhaps you'll see yourself in some of these experiences. Perhaps you'll find a lesson that helps you navigate your own leadership journey. So let's dive in. This is Learning with Impact, a reflection on leadership, challenge, and growth in education. Now, perhaps it would be good for me to begin with a little introduction about myself before I proceed with this self-reflection. I started teaching as early as in 1996. Although, since I graduated twice, I remember that even after my first graduation from AB English, I was already asked by some of my teachers to substitute for them during those times when they were taking their leave. And so I already had my first experience even as early as in 1995. Then finally, I started teaching as a classroom teacher in English. In 1996, I came back home here in Pagadian City and taught in one of the private high schools here in the city, my alma mater, because I wanted to serve back. I wanted to also give back to the alma mater, the school that nurtured me. And it was a big challenge, especially because when you are a fresh graduate, you have so many ideas and you sometimes become very idealistic. You would want to implement, you would want to share the many things that you have learned from the university back to your hometown, the school where you graduated from. Some of the colleagues that I had who had been teaching for more than 30 years, 40 years, sometimes you have difficulty dealing with them because you sometimes have different ideas. You will face challenges sometimes because of generational gaps. There are teachers who you will find out that dahil they belong to a different generation or maybe because of their age, they're not anymore as energetic as you are. They are also not as willing as you are to take challenges because many of them would like to, parang they're just there for the paycheck. Although not all, but there were really some na who are now resistant to change, especially because in high school, when I taught in high school, maraming mga pinapagawa na lesson plans, and even if we try to introduce innovations, since meron na sila mga lesson plans which they have been using for the last 10 years, 15 years, they don't want to make any changes anymore because it would take them a lot of time and a lot of effort doing so. So those were some of the things that I experienced. Now, what are the biggest challenges you face in your classroom this year, and how have they evolved compared to when you first started teaching? Now, maybe this time around, I would say that one of the biggest challenges that I have is this time around being an administrator. Maybe compared to about 30 years ago, I was merely a classroom teacher, and the people whom I lead are usually just the students. I was also the Supreme Student Council advisor during that time. So I am limited, or the realm of my control was only with the students. I was not yet given any administrative role during that time when I started teaching. So parang nako-confine lang doon. But this time around, since I have been given different positions of leadership in the school setting, there is a big difference now. I remember when I came back to Pagadian City, when I was asked, when I was appointed to lead a school as the officer in charge. The biggest challenge that I have is to be able to temper and also manage the differing expectations of my colleagues. Sometimes we cannot also avoid certain situations in which there are some individuals who would like to take some leadership roles. They would like their ways or their agenda, or we would say we have different opinions, we have different desires, and some of these, whenever we come together, these contrasting ideas sometimes create conflict, even with fellow teachers or your subordinates. They might have differing interests as well. And as an administrator, it is incumbent upon you or upon us that we have to manage, we have to look at the bigger picture, which is how do we continue even with these different forces pulling us to opposite directions? How do we manage them? Kasi ang hirap if for example kung aawayin mo yung isang tao or maybe pagagalitan mo or even if you would say you were just trying to discipline the person or call the person's attention at sasama yung loob. If sasama yung loob, there is a tendency for people to also not only back down, but sometimes they would instead resist or they would become uncooperative dahil sumama nga yung loob nila. Sometimes as administrators, it would be very difficult for us to lose the support of these people. So hindi ko naman sinasabi na kailangan nating palaging ipiplease yung ating mga kasama in the school setting, but we have to remember, we all the time have to look at the big picture. What is our objective? And how would we be able to bring these people, these different individuals, whether faculty and staff, how do we bring them to the table? How do we guide them so that we will still be able to reach our destination? We will still be able to achieve our goals despite our differing opinions and also contrasting desires or contrasting methods of achieving what our goals are. So yun talaga yung isa sa pinakamahirap when you become an administrator. Now, at this point in time, since we now have a president, I am not anymore the head of office. To a certain extent, I am now able to really exert yung ideas ko. I am able to tell them my thoughts and hindi na ako natatakot na baka mawalan ako ng suporta because the president does that. So what's happening right now is that I am not anymore the same as before na palagi kong piniplease yung mga tao because I was afraid. And there were only very few of us during that time. Since we were still starting, I was concerned that if I would be losing one or two of the support of my fellow faculty members, I would be having difficulty implementing the projects and the programs of the school. But since this time around, meron ng president, it's not na nakikipag-away ako. No, I don't do that. But at this point in time, I have to a certain extent become more assertive. I am able to also give people my opinions and I assert them, unlike before na medyo palagi kong tinatemper yung manner of how I interact with people. Now, the next question is, what's one challenge this year that you weren't prepared for? Something they don't teach in teacher training. How did you handle it? I think many of us teachers know that whenever there are 2, 3 people together, there is all the time politics. Also, as a political science student, one of the things that I remember my professor saying is that politics or political science is the science of who gets what, when, where, and how. So yun yung palagi kong naaalala sa teachers ko na in political science or in politics, it is the study of who gets what, when, where, and how. And again, as different individuals, even if we are looking at one particular object, you or we, different people see it from different angles. Ako nakatingin dito, ang iba nakatingin dito, ang iba nakatingin din dito sa isang side na to. What is important is that if we are able to really communicate, just communicate, we would be able to help each other see the big picture. But if what we do is that we also allow or we also color the manner of how we react to certain things or also try to achieve our goals, but also think about our personal intentions and personal goals, sometimes doon nangyayari yung conflict because other people also have their intentions, their agenda, their wants, and their desires. So that is it. This time around, since we already have our president, not only this year, but our president started working with us last year. I have already stepped back from being the officer in charge or the head of office of our institution. But we also see that even with our different activities, different people have different see things from different angles. Yung pag-bring together ng mga tao to be able to work and also achieve the goals of a particular project or program, that is really one challenge. And we would be very blessed. We would be very blessed if only we have a community of individuals who are very willing and who are very cooperative to be able to jointly and unitedly achieve our goals. So next, even without a formal leadership position, how do you exercise leadership in your classroom every day? Can you give us a specific example? Of course, all of us as teachers lead in one way or another. We have with us our students. We also have with us the staff of our school. And even in our school community, hindi lang nagre-revolve yung realm natin or yung a sphere of influence natin within the school, but sometimes in the nearby community. Now, if you would be asking me how I am able to exercise leadership within or even without the classroom, I do that by means of not modeling. What I'm trying to say is that we do not need to have positions to be able to really lead people. It is by way of our examples, it is by way of how we communicate. We motivate people because in an organization, only one perhaps can be declared as a leader with a formal title, but not everyone needs to be the head of the whole organization. There are also other members of the same organization who may be able to do or lead a group of people within their sphere of control, within their sphere of influence, to help the leader of the organization achieve the goals, the common goals of the organization. So how do I do that? Yun, the manner of how I communicate, I explain to my peers, also to the students, especially because in school, we do not only lead the teachers, we do not only lead the staff, we also help, we also seek the help of our students in going through the same path or leading them to take the same path or the same, let's say, method of action to be able for all of us to achieve our goals. So ganon, I think the values that you show, also the manner of how you model, the manner of how you talk, uh, also to a certain extent influences the people around you within which you have the sphere of influence. Next question. Can you share a time when you had to lead your students through a difficult or unexpected situation? Maybe a crisis, a conflict, or a major disruption. Walk us through what happened. I would not say that this is a crisis, but I would like to share this with you na we recently had our intramurals. And since right now I have been assigned as the director for the Office of the Student Affairs and Services, what happened was that aside from inviting some of the faculty and staff to help us in the implementation of our projects, we also sought volunteers from the student council and other student volunteers to help us in the implementation and the running or the conduct of our annual intramurals. Um, when you meet students as well, sometimes sila rin mismo, they have differing opinions, differing desires. Sometimes gusto nila ito, ganito. And even when we create the guidelines, there are still suggestions na dapat ganito yung gawin, ganoon yung gawin, ganito yung pamamaraan, the length of time that, let's say, certain events should be conducted. So maraming mga challenges, maraming differing opinions ang being brought to the table. So that was one challenge. Another was when especially dealing with young, not anymore children, but young adults. Many of the volunteers belong to the age range of 18 to, let's say, 24. Between that age range, they are not as mature as some of us, perhaps, who have been working with different people for a good number of years. And sometimes some of these young adults become very affected with comments coming from their peers. So maraming mga reklamo na dapat ganito or mas maganda kung ganito, and sometimes they feel hurt when they are being bashed, especially online. This time around sa mga group chat or sometimes even sa mga walls, maraming nasasaktan na mga bata. And one of the things that I keep on telling them, please remember, all the time remember, what is our goal? What is our intention? What are our objectives? All of these other comments, if they are constructive, let's listen to them, let's accept them. But if these are just purely bashing, purely to a certain extent, also detract us, then maybe what we should do is just to tune out all of these noises, because this will just really distract us from the achievement of our intentions and our goals. Um, Even after the activity, sinasabi ko sa kanila na, okay, meron pa rin mga complaints. But what I told them, remember, you did something that not too many people were able to do. I kept on encouraging them. You were able to do a lot of things that many people were not able to do. And this is something that you should be proud of. Remember, what does not kill you will only make you stronger. So even if you received all of these maybe comments coming from the public, but you will also remember there were more people who were happy, who were happier with what happened. So let's stay positive. Let's look at the bright side of the situation all the time. Next question, especially dealing with student realities that shape teaching, or I'm sorry, how have the economic and social challenges your students face, such as poverty, family issues, lack of resources, affected your teaching approach? What adjustments have you made? Um, I I am employed in a tuition free. I'm sorry, a tuition free institution. So therefore, our students do not pay tuition fees. Although from time to time meron sila mga contributions sa different programs, but that is only for special activities or special projects nila. So we do have students who may have certain concerns with finances. Meron kaming mga estudyante who come from the far-flung barangays of our city, but really who come to the city center to become or to enroll in our school. There were instances, I remember one of our faculty, not only faculty, but one of our program heads in the 4 programs that we offer, initiated this Splete Fund. It's like, it's barangayan in which all of the students agree that they are going to be putting in certain funds to be able to help some of their classmates or their schoolmates who are poor but deserving, especially because even if we are in the city center, it still takes time or it still takes an effort for some of our students to go to our school, which is maybe located a little farther from the main city center. So, yung iba kailangan pang maglakad, ang iba wala silang masasakyan. So, there was a project initiated by one of our program heads na mag-plete fund sila. So, they contributed and it benefited some of our students, especially those who come from afar. And then we also we do not have this one yet institutionalized, but some of our faculty members also, in my case, I have this one, not my student, not enrolled in any of the subjects that I have, but this person is somebody whom I personally know. The person has certain talents, especially in the digital arts. There are certain projects that I need to be done, and so I call this person. Meron akong binibigay na allowance sa kanya to be able to help him. And to a certain extent, that helped him. Many of our students also look for certain means na makakakita sila, makakahanap sila ng kanilang mga allowances. So we sometimes have this what we call as referral na if there are some individuals who are willing to work as working students, then we help them through that particular means referral system so that they may be able to help in financing their education. What's the most creative or resourceful solution you've implemented when you didn't have the budget, materials, or support you needed? Perhaps the example that I can give you once again is yung sa intramurals namin. Since I was also trained sa theater, although my experience in theater is not really that extensive. But I remember some of our directors and some of our trainers who say, in theater, if we do not have something, if we do not have certain materials, what we do is that we beg, steal, or borrow, jokingly. Although, of course, we don't steal. We beg, we borrow as much as possible. We be creative. And what happened was, when we had our, we call it Padula. When we had our search for Mr. and Miss Padula 2025, Padula in Binisaya means yung games. So it's still connected to intramural games. When we had the pageant, we did not have much resources. But we did not discount the fact that we have one very important and very beneficial resource, and that is our human resource, particularly our students. Our students are very precious and creative resource that we have in our hands. Even if we did not have much budget, we were able to run our Mr. and Miss Padula and the whole intramurals by way of their resourcefulness. Sila na yung naghanap ng saan ba yung ano ba yung gagamitin natin na palamuti, yung decorations, where are we going to be getting our prices. And we were surprised even if we did not give out any cash prize, ang dami nilang nabigay na mga special prizes coming from sponsors. And then since I was there sa gilid ng program when the search or the coronation night was conducted, I was approached by our president and tinanong niya, kilala mo ba tong mga sponsors natin? I said, no, I do not know them, although they underwent a certain screening, but all of our students were the ones who took charge in the screening and also in negotiating and requesting and soliciting the support of our different sponsors. So sila mismo yung gumawa ng paraan. Of course, they were also the ones who took charge of the rehearsal, of the organization, and so on. So our students, if we train them well, if we give them exposure, they can actually be very good instruments, very good resources, who will help us in the achievement of our goals. Okay. Eto na tayo sa conflict and relationship management. I'm quite sure many of us have undergone or have experienced this particular situation. Now, can you share an example of successfully resolving a difficult conflict, whether with a student, parent, colleague, or even administration? What was your approach? One of the things I remember, once again, one of the things that I remember was this suggestion by one of the thought leaders whom I encountered sa YouTube ata yun, or from one of the trainings that I have attended. And sinabi ng thought leader na ito na, do not make a decision when you are emotional, when your emotions are high, when you are very happy, or when you are very sad. Do not make any important decisions. Because sometimes, because of that decision, you may not be able to critically assess or evaluate the situation, and you may in the process make rash decisions because of that concurrent feeling or emotion that you have at that moment. So if you are very happy, sometimes go ka na lang ng go. Or sometimes if you are very sad or very angry, dahil galit ka or dahil masama yung loob mo, negative na yung tingin mo sa situation. And sometimes if you make a decision, nare-reject na kahit maganda yung mga proposals or mga requests. The request perhaps would be beneficial, but since you are not in the proper headspace, your situation therefore is going to be affected. The manner of how you decide would be affected by that instead. So again, that's one suggestion. Do not make any rash decision. Do not make any important decision when your emotions are high. Secondly, I think another way of how you would be able to also resolve certain conflicts is to try to understand where the other person or where the other party is coming from. Maybe another party also has a different view of a certain thing. And this is one of the recent experience that I had. since kami yung nag-organize ng games namin sa intramurals, there was this program head who was very insistent na sabi niya, bakit ganito yung implementation, yung guidelines is iba, or why did you suspend, we had this one game in which there was this protest. I said, okay, since there is this protest, we will first suspend the games because we need to conduct an investigation of what happened, because it will have an influence, or it will have an impact on the implementation of this particular sports event. So nag-insist siya na, why do you need to conduct a investigation when it's pretty clear you already know that, I already know this. I said, no, I don't know the complete situation, because I'm only hearing it from one source, and that is from you and from your program. I did not yet know what was the actual situation, and I also did not hear from the other parties. So if you are going to be forcing me to make a decision right now without getting all of the facts, then there is a very high likelihood that I might arrive in an incorrect decision. So there was this long discussion that we had, but I said, wait a minute, let's relax. Let us again try to view the situation from both of our ends. You try to check, you try to also imagine what would happen if you were also in the other in the shoes of the other party. If I make a decision without hearing them, without hearing you, and I only listen to the other party, how will you feel? And what would you think? The decision that I will be making would be biased. So gladly, at the end of that discussion, the program head said, yes, I understand where you're coming from. Yes, I understand what you're trying to say. And so that's it. We suspended the games and waited until such time that all the relevant information was uncovered. Okay. I like this question. Teaching is emotionally demanding. How do you manage your own stress and prevent burnout? What boundaries have you learned to set? And this I have also, honestly, I have also told this even to my boss, even to some of my colleagues. When I am in school, I am in the zone, I work, and sometimes I do not even count the number of hours I stay in school. When I am in the zone, I work. I sometimes also become very creative when I am alone already working. But I set my boundaries. I ensure that when I go home, maybe from time to time I respond to certain text messages, but I also keep in check that whenever there are issues with regard to work, with regard to school, at a particular point in the evening, I do not anymore open my mobile phone. I do not anymore entertain them, because alam mo naman, malaki yung katawan natin, and sometimes jokingly I say, if I'm going to be dealing with that one at this point in time sa gabi, at matutulog na ako at masama yung loob ko, hindi natin alam, magkaka-nightmare pa ako. In Bisaya, we call it urum. And yun na, if you have if you have nightmares, baka hindi na tayo makakagising. Although that's putting it in a very, very tongue-in-cheek tongue-in-cheek manner. But to a certain extent, that is true. I don't want to sleep na masama yung loob ko, because it destroys your whole evening. And if we don't also put boundaries, if we also don't put boundaries, all the more our energies are pulled down. These are energy vampires. So even during Saturdays and Sundays, as much as possible, sinasabi ko, that's already my personal life. Siguro, I will do my own projects if I have special projects na parang passion project ko, even if this is related with the school, let me be. But with regard to other concerns sa school, kung pwede, etong personal time ko, let that be. And I'm very happy that I have also influenced some of the people in our institution. I'm glad that my boss has learned to respect that. And I have heard some of the staff that we have in our school has also um, more or less uh, incorporated or followed that um, manner of setting boundaries. Na if there are already certain things that are beyond the work, siguro dapat sinabi niya. That's why, sir, during Saturdays and Sundays, I I make sure that I take my rest because if I don't, mag-burn out ako. I go out, I have time with my friends, and I do not entertain so much work unless, of course, it's an urgent work. But you know, if we only plan things out properly, things do not become that urgent if we plan all of our activities ahead of time, or we set goals and we plan our activities so that hindi tayo palaging aligaga. Looking back at this school year, what's the most important lesson you've learned that will change how you teach next year? What shifts in your thinking what shifts in your thinking or practice? I think this is connected with the previous question. Um, what have I learned that will help me prevent work burnout, and that will still continue to inspire me in teaching? Um, as I have said, if we only know how to plan, how to also ensure that we have certain milestones na hindi na sinaset natin ahead of time, we will not become overwhelmed and we will not be able to experience that much stress if things are done uh, ahead of time or maybe on time na we have sufficient time to be able to do our assignments, our projects. Setting boundaries is also something that I have learned not only this year, but I think this was something that I have been implementing in the last 2 years. And I have seen that change. If we set boundaries and if these boundaries are also respected by the people whom we work with, that really helps us. At least, minsan sinasabi natin, it helps us keep our sanity. Dahil if we would all the time allow even our work, dadalhin pa natin yung mga problema natin sa trabaho, sa bahay, if there are no more boundaries, even the people we live with will be affected because of the bad vibes or bad energy that we have if we bring certain problems from our workplace to our home or to uh, para naman sa PBB na outside world, outside the school system. But that's it. One should learn how to set boundaries. And also, as much as possible, those things that are in a particular place should only remain in that particular place. Let's not bring issues from a particular realm outside because it complicates things. And I'm very, very happy that because of setting boundaries, I'm able to also refresh. I'm also be able to ensure that whenever I get back to work, I also think na, okay, this time around, andito na ako sa school. Therefore, the things that I should be doing should be related sa mga gawain ko sa school. And when I am back home, well, maybe there are certain passion projects ko related sa teaching, but not anymore something that is related to yung mga regular tasks na, because yung mga regular tasks ko, I do it in school. Yung mga passion projects ko, as much as possible, I do it outside sa school na. And last question, if you could speak directly to teachers listening right now, especially those who are struggling, exhausted, or questioning whether they can continue, what would you say to them? Teaching is, yes, it is a noble profession. It is also a very fulfilling profession. But many times it has its challenges. The thing that I can suggest to the teachers, however, is again, learn how to set boundaries. These boundaries, what I'm trying to say is not necessarily to keep other people outside or other issues outside, but we regulate when to accept issues, concerns, problems at the proper time, at the proper place as well. We set when we are going to be attending to these particular issues and when not to. We also set when, and as we say, mental health is very important. How do we keep or how do we maintain our balance emotionally, physically, psychologically? How do we keep that particular balance? It is only by doing so we set certain boundaries, we set particular time and space for ourselves, for our professional work, professional life, and even with our social life. If we are able to keep a good balance with all of these elements, then we would still be able to continue having a fulfilling professional life as teachers, as members of the noblest profession. Um, Also, with regard to the people whom we work, it would also be good to maintain good relations with our uh, co-workers, with our students, not only talking with them with all of work, but also socializing with them during, let's say, more light moments, spending more light moments with them. Because sometimes it is through our social interactions with the people whom we meet, whom we work with, whom we teach, that we are able to also get more inspiration. So spend time to also, as they say, spend time to also smell the flowers in the field. Enjoy the view, spend time to also smell the flowers in the field. So hindi lang na work palagi. From time to time, it would also be good for us to spend time to appreciate the world we work in. As we close this segment of Leading with Impact, I want to thank you for taking this journey of reflection with me today. Leadership in education is never easy. It's messy, challenging, and often humbling. But it's also profoundly meaningful. Every decision we make, every challenge we face, every lesson we learn, it all shapes us into better leaders for the teachers we serve and the student whose futures we depend on us. If there's one thing I hope you take away from today's reflections, it's this. Leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to learn, to grow, and to keep showing up for the people who count on us. To my fellow administrators and supervisors listening, may we lead with courage, with compassion, and with the commitment to continuous growth. To the teachers who aspire to leadership roles, trust your experience, embrace the challenge, and know that your voice and your vision matter. And to every teacher listening, regardless of position, you are already leading in your classrooms, with your students, in your communities. Never underestimate the impact you make every single day. Thank you for listening to the Voice of the Teachers. Thank you to AFP Radio DWDD. Special thanks once again to General Romeo Bronner Jr., Lieutenant General Arvin R. Lagamon, Colonel Francel Margaret A. Padilla, and Corporal Regine Tamaño for supporting this platform for teachers. And thank you to every teacher out there who continues to serve, to lead, and to make a difference in the lives of Filipino learners. This has been Leading with Impact with Bobby Ancheta. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and keep making an impact.
There are soldiers, then there's us.
Buluman in position. Over.
Yeah, Buluman.
5 kalaban, 2 hostage. Akin yung kumante nila. Over.
My command. In 3, 2, 1, execute.
This is what we signed up for. We endure no matter how hard we fall, how much it hurts, or how heavy the burden.